Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing why your biggest mistake could be getting your ex back. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing why your biggest mistake could be getting your ex back. So if you have been dumped, you might feel that you want to try to reconnect and get your ex back, but should you? In today's podcast, I'll be telling you 3 reasons why getting your ex back might actually be your biggest mistake. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is there trust? So when we're discussing why getting an ex back might actually be the biggest mistake you could make, is maybe an obvious one when we think about it logically. Is there trust? Now maybe you feel that being dumped was a huge breach of your trust. Maybe you don't feel that was the right thing for your ex the dumper to do. Maybe you don't see why they did it. Maybe you didn't see it coming. Perhaps you understand somewhat, but you still feel uneasy about your new connection. And that's what we're talking about here. If you get your ex back, you are in a brand new relationship, hopefully built on stronger foundations. But what if those foundations are not as strong as they need to be? This is the problem, and this is something you really need to be asking yourself. Can you trust your partner? Now, did they break your trust within the relationship, or was it only breakup and beyond that you feel somewhat confused about their behavior patterns? If there's no trust, there is no relationship. In my opinion, you either trust someone or you are not with them. You can't have a life where you are spending each and every day quizzing one another, checking each other's phones, and just, in essence, not believing anything your partner says. If you are in this position, I don't believe you should be in a relationship. So if we consider trying to get an ex back, fighting through the difficulties that you will have to overcome and encounter during this process of reconnection, are you really going to then throw it away by having such a distrust for your former partner who is now your current partner again? And this is the question to ask yourself. Is there trust? And when I'm talking today about why some of the biggest mistakes you could make in your life are actually involving reconnecting with an ex, it's because if you don't believe in your ex, if you can't believe what they're doing, saying, trying to showcase to you, then this is going to be a huge error of judgment of reconnecting. You shouldn't be trying to get an ex back just to prove that you can. You want to be trying to get an ex back because you believe this relationship is worth improving upon, growing, and trying again. And there is a difference between those of you who want an ex back just to prove that you can reconnect with someone, just to prove that you are quote unquote better than they thought, and therefore you can get them back into a relationship they felt they didn't want or need. There is a difference between that and actually believing you want to take this further forward and that you can trust them. You know, the feeling of trust is not something that you can just convince yourself of. You have to feel it. You have to believe it. You have to understand it. It's either there or it isn't. And you will know in your heart whether you will be able to forgive your ex for dumping you, whether you will be able to forgive your ex for anything else that may have occurred during the relationship, at the time of a breakup, or post-breakup. You know if you can forgive them. You know if you can trust them. You know if you're going to be able to move forward in a way where there is not going to be the difficulties that perhaps distrust can bring. Now, the problem that you might have is even if you think, yes, I can get through this. Yes, this is not a problem to me. We have to consider whether your ex-dumper feels the same in that regard. Maybe you were dumped because you cheated on your ex. Maybe they became the dumper because you broke their trust. And if and when you are able to reconnect with your ex in the future, will they be able to trust you? Now, they are probably unlikely listening to today's podcast, but this is something that I wish that they would be asking themselves as well. Will they be able to forgive you on this? And this is why it's so important for dumpers and dumpees to showcase trust to one another if they're going to reconnect. Because if you don't, if they don't, if neither of you do, then there is no point in continuing. It will become a big mess, and unfortunately, you will break up again in the not too distant future. So when we consider big mistakes and why getting an ex back isn't always the right thing to do, it's not if you don't believe in them. It's not if they don't believe in you. And you can only solve your part of the equation. Yes, you might feel okay with this. Yes, you might feel able to move forward in a brand new connection with your former partner, but do they? Now, I can't answer that question, and sadly, neither can you. Even if you get them back, are they going to be able to trust you? Are they going to be able to live their life in a way where they're not quizzing you, where they're not checking your phone, where they're not thinking that you are cheating on them or doing whatever it may have been, where you theoretically broke their trust in the past? Can they get past that? Because they might not be considering this at this time. You might get back together in a blaze of happiness, but when reality hits, when there is the day-to-day life that you'll be going through together, that is where the distrust can show. And that's why point number one, as for why your biggest mistake could be getting your ex back, is just simply the question, is there still trust? So now let's get into point number two and the second point of today's podcast. Please like this video if you're watching on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. And point number two is wasted chance. So today's podcast is all about considering that getting your ex back might actually be the biggest mistake that you make. And point number two is that it could be a wasted chance for you to find better. And this is because right now you are single. You don't want to be single. You didn't want to be dumped. You see your ex-dumper as probably the love of your life. Right now you want to reconnect. But you have an incredible opportunity as a single person to find someone even better than your dumper. Now, you might not believe that's possible. You might not believe that you can find someone who you felt such a connection with. But don't be blinded by the fact that they dumped you, because unfortunately there is nothing more attractive than rejection. They have rejected you, and you feel even more attracted towards them than you did in the relationship. So don't be blinded, don't be fooled by some of the strong feelings you might feel towards your dumper, which actually surpass the feelings that you felt when you were together in a relationship. Don't be fooled, don't be blurred by the light of a rejection. This, unfortunately, can really trip you up. This can make you want your ex back, when in reality, you weren't even necessarily that happy either. The line between dumper and dumpee is often very thin, very narrow. It's often a very fine line between whether you dumped them or they dumped you. Sadly, you were dumped, but it certainly doesn't mean that you may have not been the dumper in an alternative reality of your life story. It could have been close. You perhaps weren't as happy as you might like to think you were when you think back wearing rose-tinted glasses. Right now you're single. Right now you have an opportunity to find someone even better, and you can. If you live your life the right way, if you become a better version of yourself every single day, a better person today than you were yesterday, a better person tomorrow than you are currently today, then you will become a version 2.0 of yourself, and you will grow your attraction net. And when you cast it off out to sea, you'll be able to attract people who previously you couldn't. When you attracted your ex, you were a version 1 of yourself. There would have been certain people who would not have been interested in you because of how you looked, how you acted, how you behaved, your traits, your personality as a whole, your skill set. Certain people wouldn't have been attracted. Your ex was. You got into a relationship with your ex as version 1. Right now, you're moving forward, hopefully, towards a version 2.0, using those self-improvement strategies that I suggest in my podcasts and via my audio coaching service, which, of course, would be more tailored to you as an individual. If you become someone who reaches that goal of becoming version 2.0, then your attraction net is going to be larger. You are someone who can attract more people than before. And therefore, why not use that opportunity to find someone that previously wouldn't have been attracted to you? When you were version 1, certain people wouldn't have been interested in you. But now, as a version 2.0, hopefully, you can find someone even better than your ex. And that's what I'm talking about in point number 2. This could be a wasted chance to find someone better. Now you're single. And therefore, should you really be trying to get your ex back? When you're free, you're single, you have every chance of finding someone better, shouldn't you use that chance and opportunity to find someone? Isn't this your moment to become the best version of yourself within yourself, and also having the best relationship possible with someone even more compatible, even more mentally, physically, and spiritually attractive towards you? Isn't this a moment that you should be at least considering? And that is why I always suggest to people who are in the position of a dumpee, you should be moving out into the world and trying to make new connections. Don't be afraid to date new people. You have an opportunity to see what is out there. And even if you don't find someone who you want to connect with, just the dating principle as a whole will really help you sharpen your skills if and when you hear from your ex. If you do decide to reconnect with your ex, if you do get that opportunity, then practicing through dating other people, speaking, communication, all of those perishable skills, that will help you in the long run with your ex or somebody else. So you should be moving forward, you should be living your life to the full, you should be making new connections, because with or without your ex, it's going to be very, very important. And please make sure, if you do get back with your ex, you don't one day regret it and think, you know what, that was a wasted opportunity, a wasted chance for me to find someone who was even more my match. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about why your biggest mistake could be getting your ex back. And point number 3 is the evidence. And the evidence, unfortunately, is based on the proof that we have within our life story. And the proof of concept within your life story is that you and the person who is your former partner, unfortunately, had a relationship fail. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't reconnect and live happily ever after, but we have to look at the evidence. And the evidence doesn't say that you lived happily ever after for now. What it does say, however, is that you were together and you broke up. It didn't work. There is the proof of concept between you two as individuals within your relationship. That's all we have to go off right now. And therefore, if you want to try to get your ex back, and if you succeed in doing so, are you just setting yourself up for a further fall? Are you two just simply not compatible? Now, I'm not saying that you can't get over these hurdles. I'm not saying that you can't grow as a person and reach one another at a higher point for both of you, where you're both a version 2.0. That is certainly possible. But even if you put in the work, there's no guarantee that your ex-dumper will. And certainly, if you don't put in enough work, then if they do, then sadly, this relationship is destined to fail. Because as I said, we have that proof of concept. We have the blueprint of what happens when you two go into a relationship together. Sadly, it didn't work out. There is the evidence. For you two to live happily ever after, we need to overcome that situation. Now, that is certainly possible, but that is going to take work not just on your side, their side as well. Remember what I always say. You can only control the controllables. You can only control your side of the equation. Yes, get your house in order, but have they got their house in order? We don't know. We don't know for certain. And even if you get back together, we don't know exactly how it's going to be until things move beyond that initial point of reconnection. What we can say is, but sadly in the past it didn't work out. So the evidence suggests this relationship is going to take a lot of work on both sides to get over the line and last forevermore. Is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? Well, that depends on the individuals at play. You are one, and you need to make sure that you get your life in order, but your ex-dumper is the other side of the coin, the other side of the equation, and I don't know for certain, just as you don't, whether or not they've put in the work. And that's why when we discuss about why your biggest mistake could actually be getting your ex back, is because we actually know, sadly, this connection didn't work. It didn't work in the past. So is this just setting yourself up for further heartbreak further down the line because one or both of you feel it's not working again? For it to succeed, it would have to go in a different direction to what it did before. Yes, that's possible, but is it likely? Well, that's down to both of you two. I could help you, but what about your ex-dumper? Are they getting the support they need? Are they going through the self-improvement? Are they taking on board what they need to make a relationship work? None of us know. And there lies the problem. I'm not trying to scare you about trying to get your ex back, but it's important we look at things from all angles. And sometimes the biggest mistake any of us can actually make is thinking that we want our ex back and because it will make things much better for us and them moving forward. Sometimes your actual best option is to find someone new and even better than your previous partner. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.